Burden groups are accessed via the employee icon. You have a tab, Burden Groups, which will display the burden groups that you have created and available to add to an employee, as well as burden names. Burden names, it's simply where you edit any of the burdens that you've created. To create a new burden group, simply click the plus symbol. You're going to navigate through the burden wizard via the back and the next buttons. This will ensure that you address every step required in the wizard. So if you're coming in to edit something, just use the next button until you get to the tab that you want to edit. So when you're creating a new burden group, simply provide a burden group name. It needs to be unique from the other burden group names. So enter in the name and hit next. And you're going to see the blue highlight when there's multiple steps on a tab. You're going to have the blue highlight show you what task it is that we're looking at having you fill in. Where you have different sections, in this case here, payroll taxes, you'll oftentimes have the blue informational section. And I also want to point out the click here for a list of current values. This is a document that we will renew every year showing the current FICA and FUTA percentages and maximum wage limits. The list also includes all of the states in the U.S. with their percentages and their maximum limits as well. So with this wizard, you're going to add the burdens that you want. You're going to click on a line item, and you'll see that you have different drop-down lists. So you simply click the drop-down, and we've made the list based upon the section. So this list of FICA, FUTA, SUTA, that is specifically for United States payroll taxes. If you're in Canada, if you're in some other country that you have a different requirement, just simply type in what you want to add to that list. So if you're in the blank text box, whatever you type in there will be added to that list. If you need to delete anything from the drop-down list, that's where you would go to the Burden Names tab and edit the burdens from there. Alright, so when creating a new burden, simply go into the different sections and select your values. So we'll just say 6.75%, maximum wage limit 135,000, and you'll simply add more if needed. But once you're finished with that section, you just want to hit next, and then that will take you to the next step. You'll see you have step 3 of 7, so you know where you're at all of the time. And remember to take a look at the instructions that we provide, and each line item has instructions on what you need to do. So for right now, I am going to switch to a existing burden group that will allow me to just show you a burden wizard with values already in there, because you're going to use the burden wizard to maintain and adjust your different burden groups as well. So in the list for burden groups, you would just want to click edit. Now you can also expand it, and it will show you the different values. So you hit the diamond in front of the categories, and then that will expand each category to show you the values that exist in that burden group. These are also links. So if you want to go to that section of the wizard, you just click on that. It's going to open up the burden group. Here at the top left, you can see burden group journeyman, and you're going to be in that section where you can make any revision. Just keep in mind that any changes that you make in this burden group, in this example, it's journeyman, but any changes that you make here, for every employee that has selected the burden group journeyman, that employee will reflect the changes that you're making to this group. So it's a global change. If it needs to be a new burden group, don't come in here and change this if you still need to have other employees use these values. Don't do that, but instead go ahead and duplicate the group, rename it, and then change the values if it's only going to be for select employees. So you can also, to edit existing burden groups, just click the edit link. All right, so I'm going to just run through this and just point out anything that you might need to be aware of. So let's hit next. It's going to step 2 for payroll taxes. Once you're done with that, click next. Step 3 is for insurance. So this would be for any insurance that you're having to pay money for on behalf of this or an employee that would be assigned this burden group, so journeyman. So in this example, we have general liability insurance, health insurance, workers' compensation, and then you also have the different cost basis. So it can be a percent of regular labor. That's their regular pay. Oftentimes, that's what it's based upon. So general liability, it's usually a percentage of payroll. Then for other insurances, such as health insurance, it might just be an annual premium. So in that case, you would just simply select lump sum per year. Or if you wanted to use lump sum per month, if you know what that monthly premium is, go ahead and select that, and then have your amount reflect for that cost basis. So let's hit next. Miscellaneous expenses. There again, to add anything, we have different expenses that you might want to account for. So you can select one of those, or just type in the miscellaneous expense that you want to add to that drop-down list. As long as you're in a new line and that text box is blank, whatever you type in there will be added to that drop-down list for future use. So let's hit next. Paid non-productive. So that could be things such as company meetings that you're paying that employee for, but they're not productive during the meeting. They're not producing anything on the job site. Training, education, whatever non-productive paid time that you want to assign to a burden group, account for it here. Let's hit next. Paid time off. So if you're paying the employee to take this time off where they're not available to work on the job site, account for it here. All right, let's hit next, and that is unpaid time off. So any time that the employee will be taking off on his own accord, you want to account for it here if you're not paying that employee to take the time off. So for an example, we would just do, let's say, vacation. He's going to take so many hours per year, and that would be 40 hours per year. So that would be 1 week of unpaid vacation. Now, let me explain why it's really important that you account for this time, whether it's paid or unpaid time off. You'll notice that for the employee classifications, let's go to the journeyman and expand him. So you have a calculation, job site hours. That's how many hours the employee will actually be on the job site producing, installing the material that you have in your estimates. So in order to calculate what the burden per hour cost is, you're taking your total annual burden and you're dividing it by the job site hours. So you have the annual cost, but the job site hours, that's how many hours this guy is going to be on the job producing. So you have to account and calculate for all unpaid time off, or any time, and the same thing with the unproductive labor, unproductive time. You need to account for those in order to accurately calculate your hourly burden. Now, the tab for burden names, you simply are going to use this to edit the existing burdens that you have. So if you need to make any changes, just come in here and change the burden name. If you want to delete it, just select delete and it will delete it from your drop-down lists. So that is the burden groups. It's the burden group list, it's the burden group wizard, and then how to maintain the burden names. So if you have any questions on any of this, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to help you. Thank you.